Is OpenMandriva the most unwoke Linux distribution, the most non-woke Linux distribution on planet Earth? It seems like it might be. I just got an email from the president of the OpenMandriva Association, and it made me laugh so many times. A little bit of background here. There are a huge number of highly woke Linux distributions. We know that. We all know that. And maybe that matters to you. Maybe it doesn't matter to you. But it's the reality of the world we live in, whether it's OpenSUSE or Debian or NixOS or issues with the Linux kernel itself. Most of the organizations are just very, very, very woke. They push DEI related agendas. They conduct purges of anyone who's centrist or conservative politically. It's a very discriminatory environment, and it kind of stinks, right? Which causes many of us to wonder, are there any operating systems? Are there any Linux or otherwise that are not woke, right? And so on January 2nd, just 4 days ago, I put out a show that literally just said, are there any non-woke operating systems? And I walked through a whole bunch of them, and it just didn't seem like there was a whole heck of a lot of choices. And that resulted in this email. And I'm going to read to you every last little word of this email because it is golden. This is from Bernard Rosenkranzer, the president of the OpenMandriva Association. Now, for those of you who do not know what OpenMandriva is, OpenMandriva is sort of the spiritual successor to Mandrake Linux. Mandrake Linux, for those of you new to the Linux world, was kind of the first super easy to use Linux distribution. It came about in, was it 1998, 1999, something like that. And it was focused on making things just super easy to use, turnkey, out of the box, ready to roll Linux distribution for anyone to use. It was great. It made a huge wave, and it garnered some really dedicated users for years and years and years. Now, there was a lot of tumultuousness over the years, and one of the resulting distributions that still exists, because the original Mandrake is gone, is Mandriva or OpenMandriva. Now, Bernard here is the president of the OpenMandriva Association, sort of the spiritual successor here. So here we go. Here is his full email. I'm just going to read it bit by bit to you. Quote, "We are, of course, a Linux-based project. Sadly, currently there's nothing else with the same level of hardware support." He's referring to the Linux kernel. You got to have, if you want lots of great hardware support, the Linux kernel, you really can't beat it, right? If you move over to FreeBSD or OpenBSD or, oh, heaven help you, NetBSD, the number of drivers that you will not have for your system will number in the bajillions, more than grains of sands on all the beaches and all the universes, blah, 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 blah. But Linux, nowadays, man, Linux just has drivers for friggin' everything. So OpenMandriva uses Linux. I continue. Quote, "So we certainly use some code from the woke crowd, but in our own project, we're pretty much the opposite." Okay, you've got my attention here. Okay, so those of you, so you have a visual in your mind, those of you watching the video version. If you go to openmandriva.org, they have two versions of their distribution, one called Rock, one called Rome. Rock is their like stable, standard style, here's a release once every so often version of an operating system. And Rome is their rolling release, meaning you install it and it gets new updates like all the friggin' time, right? And I'm going to read this quote to you from the Mandriva Association page so you can have this in your head as we're going through this. Quote, "The OpenMandriva Association's goal is to develop a pragmatic distribution, that provides the best user experience for everyone from newbies to developers. We will achieve our objectives for the best balance between the most modern features and stability." All right, I like all that. I especially like that pragmatic word. "Our roots are in Mandrake and its traditions. We are a worldwide community of people who are passionate about free software, working together, and take our technical and strategic decisions in a collaborative manner. We do not just build a Linux distribution, we exchange knowledge and make new friends. Welcome to the OpenMandriva community." Okay, so that's OpenMandriva. And if you look through their website, there's no big giant code of conduct type things on their website. That stuff just isn't there. Well, here is the statement from the president. He continues, quote, this starts off great. We don't do DEI or DIE as we prefer to call it. We look at the quality of contributions rather than the views, gender, or race of people trying to make them. We refuse to ban contributors for being conservative, straight, Russian, or anything else considered a no-go in mainstream projects. Oh, be still my beating heart. So they right out of the bat, the whole they don't do DIE thing. Oh my goodness. I found my people, ladies and gentlemen. They refuse to ban contributors for any reason, right? It doesn't matter. So any gender, any race, they're against banning it, and they specifically call out conservative, straight, Russian, or anything else. Oh my heavens, yes. Oh my heavens, yes. I'm going to continue. It's great. Quote, we will most certainly not adopt the contributor covenant. Okay, the contributor covenant is that code of conduct that so many projects base everything on, and it is crazy woke racist. It's off the charts, just pure evil. So the fact that they are saying they will certainly not adopt that is a big win. Work with Outreachy. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Outreachy is an organization that specifically looks to fund and facilitate internships in technical projects, which is great. But they do it for everybody on Earth except straight white men. They make a point of calling out every single possible person you could be. They want to help you if you're not, as long as you're not a straight white man, because they hate straight white men. So here we go. OpenMandriva won't work with Outreachy because Outreachy is a discriminatory, racist, sexist organization. They're a woke organization. So OpenMandriva won't do it. I love it. Quote, or use any more Rust cruft than absolutely necessary. Sadly, these days, Rust has invaded Mesa, so it's getting harder and harder to avoid it altogether. I'm so happy right now. I'm so happy. This is just fantastic. I want to read this little bit here, also from the OpenMandriva website. They have a little page, a little spot that says, why OpenMandriva? And I'm just going to read this to you straight up. Quote, we are a 100% community-driven association that believes in the values of free software and collaboration. Okay. We fight to protect these values and promote solutions anyone can use, change, and distribute. OpenMandriva believes in creating, improving, promoting, and distributing free software in general and its projects in particular. We also crave for promoting free exchange of knowledge and equality of opportunity in software access and development, as well as in education, science, and research. Our projects are developed with passion by the community and aim to be flexible in use by all. So they call out equality of opportunity, right? So they're not talking about equity here, right? This is more of a equality under the law sort of scenario. Oh my goodness. He continues. The president of OpenMandriva says, quote, but of course, you rarely, if ever, hear we even exist. The media are doing a pretty good job at ignoring releases coming out of organizations not following the party line. And he's absolutely right. Every now and then you will see a little tidbit about OpenMandriva, but most people generally ignore it. And I think he's right. I think a large part of that is they don't toe the party line. They are not pushing the same politics that so many of the tech journalists want to have. And it's a good looking distribution. I mean, it looks solid. I've downloaded the current rolling and stable releases, and I'm going to be trying it out over the next week here, because it's been years since I've used anything Mandriva or Mandrake related, and it's clearly past time. Now, I went to DistroWatch, which is a website which does the kind of a popularity ranking of distributions. Now I should caution you when we look at these numbers. This is not market share user base at all. All this ranking ranks is the popularity of a distribution's page on DistroWatch. Like how often people go to distrowatch.com and click on a distribution to learn more about it, right? So that's all that this talks about. And there's a ton of distributions on DistroWatch. OpenMandriva on there ranks number 37 out of a huge number, which is higher than Slackware and Damn Small Linux and Devuan and Lubuntu and GhostBSD, but not quite as big as PC Linux OS, Kubuntu, or even CentOS. So it's kind of in there. It's in the top 40, and I think that that's probably pretty right in terms of market share. It's just my gut telling me that. But clearly there's just not a whole heck of a lot of press attention that's willing to be dedicated to OpenMandriva. And I think a large part of that, looking at the design of it, it should get some attention, right? It's got a good technical merits. It's got some good visuals, but it doesn't toe the party line politically. And I think that's going to cause it a bit of a problem. Go to openmandriva.org if you want to check it out. Now, in order to drive the point home of how non-woke they are, this is a real thing. The president of the OpenMandriva Association also sent me a C++ file, right? A .cpp file for me to read. Now, the CPP file is a joke, but it's something they put together and they thought was funny and they wanted to share with me. Quote, "Since I think you may find it funny, I've attached the source for the WokeOS shell we've developed," in quotes, "to where other OS projects seem to be headed. We're convinced it will soon be the default shell in Red Hat and Ubuntu, winky smiley face." Okay, that's a little sarcastic. But so what they did is they made a mock shell, right? A mock text shell for your terminal. With some woke things in it. Now, again, this came from the OpenMandriva President, and I have a few screenshots here, and I'm just going to read a couple of tidbits to you here. First, when you go to log into this mock woke shell, if you try to enter anything other than root, you have to be root. It says, "Sorry, but it's really unfair to have users other than root, since they would have different privileges." Right? If you, let's see, some conservative neo-Nazis, this is a comment in the file, have said this is a security problem, having the password always be password. And we shouldn't echo, or the password was visible on the terminal, and we shouldn't echo the password, but we believe in information sharing. Okay, wait a minute, hold on. The really good stuff follows here. And then let's see, if you get your password wrong in the woke shell, it says, "I'm very sorry. This is not the password set for this machine. Please tell me a little about you." It then sets a couple of values, including one that's a Boolean called super minority. And it asks, "Are you gay? Are you transgender? Do you identify as a person of color?" And now you have to answer yes to all of those things. And if you do that, you are declared that super minority Boolean is set to true. And it checks, hey, if they're a super minority, meaning they're a gay, transgender person of color, it says, that is great. This OS will now grant you the same privileges as a straight white man who knows the password has, and then it logs you in. And if you're not, it says, "I'm super duper sorry, but you are not a minority by 2020 standards. Please embrace modern progressivism and come back as a drag queen to get a chance at entering the WokeOS powered world." This came from the president of OpenMandriva. I love it. Now, if you're in the shell, in this WokeOS shell, and you want to run top, right? Because you want to look at all the files, all the processes running and how much memory they're taking and all that. You run top. Okay. It shows you a trigger warning. The top command is, by its very nature, elitist and ableist. It discriminates against processes that are unable to fully utilize the CPU of the available memory. While the WokeOS kernel makes a great effort to eliminate this inequality, for example, by performing random calculations inside idle processes or randomly allocating memory to processes that haven't had the same chances as a more privileged process to ask for it, you may still see an unfair list of top processes. We are, of course, giving every process not in the list a virtual participation trophy. And the same is true if you run the kill command, right? So you want to kill a process because this process shouldn't be run anymore. So run the kill command. Trigger warning. This is the first time you're launching this version of the kill command. Before proceeding, you have to agree to the code of conduct for this tool. You will not use this tool against processes of color. POC, gay, transgendered, or disabled processes. You will use the kill command only as a last resort after nag, beat up, complain, whine, terrorize have failed. Unless, of course, the victim is a Russian, a Nazi/Trumpist, or worse, someone who isn't woke. In that case, no restrictions apply. And if you agree to that, then you can run the kill command. And of course, there's a trigger warning, and every time you run the trigger warning, you get a thing that says, this tool is about to display a trigger warning in flashy colors. The trigger warning itself might trigger you. Please press Control-C if you don't want to be exposed to the flashy warning. I love that the president of OpenMandriva not only came out and made a clear statement about how decidedly non-woke and non-DEI they are, and how focused clearly on meritocracy and being practical and all that within OpenMandriva. I love that. But I love that he sent along a mock joke parody C++ file just to drive home the fact that they really are not woke. Oh my heavens. Oh my heavens. Let me scroll back up here and bring this back up on the page here to Bernard Rosenkrancer, president of the OpenMandriva Association. You are going to get yelled at for this, but I'm going to tell you straight up, huge amounts of love, massive amounts of love. For all of you out there looking at this, this is the sort of thing that should be encouraged. I mean, there's no reason for anyone to yell at what OpenMandriva just said. There's no reason at all. But people will. So I would just encourage people, go download OpenMandriva, openmandriva.org, and give it a try. This is not me endorsing OpenMandriva. This is not an official review of OpenMandriva. I've downloaded it. I've installed the stable, and I'm going to install the rolling as well. And I'm going to try it over the next week to give it a fair shot, because if it meets my needs and they really hold these sorts of views, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's truly a beautiful thing. And I think that should get more attention, because when we use a computer operating system, you don't want to think the people that made this genuinely hate me, right? You don't want to have to think that. And so I'm okay if there's an operating system out there that has political views that are decidedly against me, right? That are just anti-Lunduke views. Like, that's okay. But there's so many of those distributions, so many of those operating systems, whether it's Windows or Mac OS or a multitude of Linux distributions or what have you. There's so many of them that finding one that doesn't hate you for being a centrist, for being a conservative, or being a straight white guy, or so many other different groups of hated people by the woke left, that it's nice to see an alternative. It's nice to see an option. And you know what? I wish there was more. I wish I could point to a large variety of distributions and operating systems like OpenMandriva that take a hard stance. And maybe this hard anti-woke stance from OpenMandriva will be off-putting to some. And I think that's really okay, because the reality is, anyone who would be put off by these statements is probably not going to use OpenMandriva anyway, because OpenMandriva didn't made outwardly extreme woke statements. I mean, you see this sort of thing all the time, where an organization, a piece of people running a piece of software, whatever, just simply don't make an extreme statement. And so the woke left attack them for failure to make extreme statements. A great example is the Ladybird web browser. The Ladybird web browser came out and said nothing. They just didn't make big political statements. They were just like, we're just going to make a web browser. That's it. See you guys later. And they got attacked for being racists. They got attacked for being transphobes. They got attacked for promoting human slavery. Like, it was crazy. The number of attacks the Ladybird browser got was insane. And all they did was say they just wanted to make some software and stay non-political, right? So you're going to get attacked by that extremist woke left, no matter what you do, unless you agree with everything they say extremely publicly, right? So if about OpenMandriva coming out, I don't know that them coming out, even though as non-woke, even though it will probably cause them to get yelled at, I don't know that the people yelling at them would have used OpenMandriva anyway. So in terms of actual user base change, I can't see this as having anything but a positive impact on the people using OpenMandriva. Because now, like Bernard pointed out, most tech press ignore OpenMandriva likely for many of the reasons we just talked about, because they are politically aligned typically with that extreme woke left. So come out, make a big deal about it. And I recommend other software projects do the same thing. Come out, make a big deal about you not being woke. And people who were like, you know what, this woke stuff is distasteful. I don't like the racism. I don't like the sexism. I don't like the evilness of it all. I would like to, if possible, use some software that doesn't hate me. Is that an option? Right? Because if it's an option and it doesn't really cause me all sorts of problems to use the non-woke software, well, I'm going to use the non-woke software, right? So that's why I'm trying out OpenMandriva. If it works 90% as well as Debian or Ubuntu or OpenSUSE or NixOS or any of the other distributions out there, well, yeah, I'm going to give it a spin. Heck yeah. Why the heck not? So anyway, thank you to Bernard for reaching out. And thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers. Try OpenMandriva and let me know what you think. I'm curious. OpenMandriva.org. And while you're clicking on websites, go to lunduke.com. Find your favorite place to listen and watch the Lunduke Journal. The Lunduke Journal's everywhere now. It's everywhere. You can't throw a rock without hitting a show from the Lunduke Journal nowadays. So go to lundukejournal.com. Podcast links, video links. You can even download the shows as DRM-free MP4 files right from, go to lunduke.com. Full links. It's fantastic. Lots of different ways to support it. And again, I could not do this. I could not do what I do without your support. I don't have to take any money from advertisers, from big tech companies, from corporate sponsors, nothing. So no one can cancel the Lunduke Journal. And that's entirely thanks to all of you who've put your faith into the work that we're doing here. I could not do this without you. So go to lunduke.com, click on some things, support us if you can. High fives, digital and otherwise, are coming your way. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.